Good morning. Today is the 21st day of Kislev, the 4th of December. We're up to the second reading of Parshat Vayeishev. And we're going to do something that surprisingly we haven't done until now, which is actually very surprising considering how easily it is done every time. In every Torah portion we have 7 readings, and it's well known that the number 7 is related to the number of emotive faculties, from loving kindness all the way down to kingdom. So we have loving kindness and might and beauty and victory, acknowledgement, foundation, and might and kingdom. So it stands to reason, and it should be very clear, that the 7 readings correspond each in turn to one of these 7 faculties in order, of course. So the first reading in every Torah portion is related to loving kindness, the second one to might, and so on. And so you actually have to have a large repertoire of things related and understanding what each one of these emotive faculties really is, in order to connect the images and the events that happen in each one of the Torah readings to the respective faculty. But there was one year, I think it was about probably 16, 17 years ago, the Rav Ginsburg found himself in 770 in Crown Heights during the holidays, and he decided to do that, exactly that, for the entire Torah, for all 54 Torah portions. And he came back with a notebook full of his thoughts, and this came out actually as a series of books that go through each Torah portion and explain how each of the aliyot, each of the readings, corresponds to an emotive faculty. So today we're going to do this the first time, even though, it could have been done many, many times before. I don't know. I never felt the need to do it, and I guess today is the first time, so I'm telling you all about it. So we're in the second reading of Vayeishev, and that means that it's related to might. And indeed, it's very hard to find a reading that is more full of might than this one. In this reading, we see how the brother's hatred manifests into action. It changes into action. And hatred is already something that dwells in the left side of the heart, in the faculty of might, of gvura, as we call it. Many times it's associated with fear. We'll see that as we go on. But the heart is where the brain tells us these feelings are, in our heart, in the left side of our heart. And so they're full of hatred and turns into action. They decide to kill Joseph. Joseph himself shows a lot of might. You could say this about many things in the Torah, but here we have bravery. Might is bravery. Why? Because Joseph is sent by his father to go check up on the other brothers, and Joseph knows that this is dangerous for him, and yet he goes. And when he comes to where he thought they might be, he is met by a man. There's a man who finds him. We'll get back to this man also in a moment. And he asks him, "Who are you looking for?" And he says, "I'm searching for my brothers." He says to him, "They have traveled from here, and they've gone to a place called Dotan. I heard them saying, 'Let us go to Dotan.'" Now, sounds very innocuous, nothing special, but we know that there's a lot of bad blood here. There's a lot of things going on. So the way that this is understood is as follows: the man that finds him, it's not that Joseph finds someone finds him. This man is considered to be the angel Gabriel. Gabriel, his name itself, Gavriel, comes from Gevura. It comes from the same word that means might. It's the name of the Sphira, Gevura. Gabriel is the archangel. He's the angel that most is connected to this faculty of might. And he says to him, what he says to him is like this: I heard them that they wanted to distance themselves from here But really the way that Rashi explains this, and this is the way that we should hear it, they're distancing themselves from you. And why are they going to this place called Dotan? Dotan, it's an actual place in Samaria, near Shechem. But the symbolism of it is that they are looking for legal pretext to kill you, because the word Dotan is like dat. Dat, in Hebrew, even though most people translate it in modern Hebrew as religion, really means a legal decision. So they're looking for some kind of legal argument to kill you. That's what they want to do. But Joseph is strong with his decision to do what his father tells him. That is bravery. That is might also. To be so devoted to your father, even though you know that you face danger, and to pursue the course of action that he asked you to take. In any case, they do decide to kill him, and obviously that's a lot of might, but since we're talking about that they're looking for a legal pretext, we call this machination. It's when the heart hardens in such a way that it begins to plot and to conspire, twisting and changing the way the law should really be exercised. And it's giving false pretext to an act that they want to commit. Eventually they end up throwing him into one of the pits. That's what they want to do. What they wanted to do was to kill him and throw the body into one of the pits. The pit itself is an empty void that is also related to might, because we say that in order to create space for the world, an empty space, God had to contract his presence. He had to, as it were, conceal his presence, conceal his revelation. And that's what leaves an empty space, this contraction, and another act of might. And finally we have this, what they eventually did was that they just they listened to Reuben, and they only threw him without killing him into the pit. Why did Reuben try to do this? Why did he try to save him? It was also from a deprecated form of might. Reuben was afraid that because he was the eldest, he would be the one who would be blamed for Joseph being murdered, and they wouldn't get away with their scheme, and he would be the one who would take the blame. And so he was afraid, again, which is related to might. There's one more point here, very interesting, that might is also about struggle. And there's a struggle going on here. The struggle is very interesting, because it raises a whole question about how to understand this type of explanation. The brothers say, after they say, let's kill him, they say, and we shall see what will become of his dreams. Now, if you think about it a little bit, it doesn't make very much sense that they would say this. Why does it make sense that they would say this? Because they said, we're going to kill him, so obviously nothing will become of his dreams. It's superfluous. It's completely unnecessary to say it. So because of this, the sages say that they didn't say this, that it was the Holy Spirit that said this. Now, what does that even mean, that the Holy Spirit said this? It means, in a certain sense, that a person is being taken over, and he's uttering words that are not of his mind. They don't come from him. It's another example of might, of like a contraction of the free will, so that the person ends up saying something. So there's a tremendous amount of might in this reading. But I want to end with something positive. And that even might, when it's with great people, also contains its opposite, loving kindness. That is maybe the lesson of all of this. That when it is a great person, even when he falls, even when he does something wrong, what he does is still complex. And what we mean by complex is that it's not only might, but it also includes within itself loving kindness and beauty and so on. And the one that's most clearly showing the aspect of inter-inclusion here, that these are complex actions, is that we find in the verses, it says in verse 17, we're in chapter 37, verse 17, they said one to another, here comes this dreamer of dreams. The four words to another, here is the dreamer of dreams. Achiv, hinei, ba, lachalomot. The initials spell love, ahava. Which is very interesting, that the Torah is like telling us that even though they're certainly doing it out of revealed hatred, but there is love even in that. And what's the love? The love we know is that they meant one thing, but since they are complex people, God meant something entirely different, and this is all going to save them further down the line. This is all coming from an act of love in the end. God's love maybe not theirs. They can't reveal the love right now. They don't understand this love right now. But it's even more amazing. These four words whose initials spell love, Achiv, Hinei, Ba, Lachalomot, Aleph, Hey, Bet, Hey, these four words, their value is 676. And 676 is 26 squared. Another way of saying that is that it is, 26 we know is the value of God's name, Havaya, the four-letter name. But 26 is also twice the value of love. Love is equal to 13. So 26 squared is the same thing as saying 2 squared times 13 squared. Or 4 times 13 squared. 4 times 169. 13 is the value of love. So we have love squared here, multiplied by 4. It means that the average value of each one of these words, Achiv, Hinei, Ba, Lachalomot, these four words whose initials spell love, the average value of each word is love squared, is 13 squared. So there's a lot of love here that's concealed inside that we can't see right now, but it's eventually going to come out. So this is a very nice example, I think, of what it means that every one of the Torah readings, it corresponds to the sphera, the faculty that it represents. So it's the second reading, it's might. And I think that the last part was the most important part of this whole discussion, that we expect to find in complex actions the opposites also included inside the actions themselves. So thanks for joining. I hope you come again tomorrow.